Are your thoughts getting in the way of creating the life that you truly want? Do your vision boards feel like distant dreams? Do you catch yourself spiraling into overthinking, creating stories that invite chaos and stagnation instead of peace and momentum? I used to engage with those thoughts, and before I knew it, I was manifesting experiences that weren't even happening. They were only imagined ones that were rooted in fear. But here's the truth. The person living out their dream life has learned how to conquer one thing above all else, and that is self. They've tamed the mind, observed the ego, and chosen their reality with clarity and intention. They're not ones to manipulate others to follow them, but become magnetic by simply just being authentic. They inspire alignment, not force compliance. They move from presence, not performance. The greatest victory is to conquer self. In this video, I'm going to share some powerful shifts that have helped me move closer to a life of peace, intention, and inner freedom. What's up, guys? Gina here. Thanks for dropping by and welcome to my channel. Let's just dive in. You can't teach anybody anything, only make them realize the answers are already inside them. We don't see things as they are. We see things as we are. There is no truth, there's only perception. Even our perceptions are unreliable when it comes to worrying about what one might think. Everyone is interpreting their experiences based on their own perception of mind. The way people perceive you says more about them than it does about you. Their judgments come from their own personal conditioning, beliefs, and values, and often so do ours. When you overthink what others are saying about you or feeling about you, you're really just projecting your own fears. So instead of spiraling, ask yourself, what values am I standing on right now? Am I living in alignment with those values? We all have different core values and beliefs. One might value a political figure based on their business decisions, and another might value what the moral compass of this political figure is. It would be unwise and also just not beneficial to make assumptions or allow our minds to unnecessarily go down that path of overthinking, creating a scattered and sort of cluttered mind. Try and remain where your virtues increase. Stay in a place of peace and growth, not only physically, but mentally. Words are harmful, and when we're not thoughtful in our way of speaking, it can bring us down to a lower vibration if we're not careful enough. Whereas you can change your approach and come from it from a point of being like, hey, what you said here made me feel uncomfortable. That approach is so much more thoughtful and peaceful than going about it and saying, I'm not angry, I'm this. There's this passive aggressive tone to that. Emotion is energy, not identity. It's the ability to observe without evaluating that is the highest form of intelligence. Negative emotions are a part of life, but when left unchecked, they drain our creative energy and clarity. That's because the mind becomes so diluted, so cluttered, and your body holds on to the weight of unprocessed emotions. When we learn to observe our emotions, not suppress, not deny, but witness, we begin to heal. I really believe that our triggers and our fears, our insecurities don't necessarily just completely go away. We just learn how to better cope with them. One book that I love is Healing and Recovery by David R. Hawkins. His map of consciousness helped me realize that every emotion carries a vibration. Awareness is step one. Naming the emotion without judgment is how you reclaim your power. Next step is hold your center, or the world will hold it for you. Until you can hold your own center, every wind will feel like a storm. When someone is being negative or triggering, remember their reaction is a reflection of their internal world, not yours. We can learn to recognize and catch ourselves in these negative emotional states. So whenever I feel any sort of negative emotion trigger brewing, I'm able to quickly nip it in the bud. It's a sort of emotional cleansing practice. Sometimes it shows up unexpectedly through the back door, and we can't help but react in these moments. But then we just try again. Practicing this observation is like going to the mind gym. The more we practice, the better we get, and the more likely it'll become second nature to us. There's no need to feel shame when we screw up. If you look on the chart, shame is also a negative emotion and a negative vibration. So it's in shifting that perspective and getting on the side of solution. It's not pushing it down and ignoring it, because not saying how you feel in that moment in time or recognizing how you feel in that moment in time is also doing you injustice. I used to gaslight myself into believing that everything was okay, and I would never voice my feelings of hurt. If someone hurt me, I just stuffed it down because I always felt that I didn't want to cause any trouble. And for the people who understand where I'm coming from, it gets easier the more we do it. The more we recognize that we are here to be authentic to ourselves. The illusory nature of appearances exist for us only in our consciousness. Even space and time become annihilated. Time being only the experience of succession, there being no past or future except as a thought relation to the present. We speak and even think about the sun as giving light, yet we know that it's simply giving forth energy. What we call light is simply a mode of motion. So that although we speak of the rose as being red, the grass as being green, or the sky as being blue, we know that these colors exist only in our minds and are the sensation experienced by us as the results of the vibration of light. I know that seems so much more complex, but what you see is shaped by your mind, not by ultimate truth. What seems solid is often shifting. What seems certain is often illusion. Look deeper. The truth is rarely on the surface. Not everything is exactly how it seems. In life, appearances arise, but they don't hold ultimate truth. Which brings me to my next thing, which is the mind is everything, what you think you become. This is a reminder that perception shapes reality and that reality is filtered through mind. Our circumstances and environment are formed by our thoughts. Every thought tends to become a material thing. Our desires are seeds that have a tendency to sprout and grow and blossom and bear fruit. We are sowing these seeds every single day. We have to ask ourselves, what shall the harvest be like? Each of us today is the result of the past thinking. Later, we shall be the result of what we are thinking. We create our own character, personality, and environment by the thought which we originate or entertain. Thought seeks its own. Mental currents are as real as electric. We attract the currents with which we are in harmony. Are we selecting those which will be conducive to our success? This is an important question. What you think is what you attract into your life. Define what matters to you. Know that focusing on the good attracts more of the same good towards you through time. Thinking about what you don't have, what you don't like, how bad you feel, and who you aren't, only propagates that further into your life. So double down on the good. Where you apply your energy is the direction your life goes. Become more mindful of the people you spend your time with. Energy is contagious. Over time, your nervous system begins to regulate to the rhythms of those around you. Their fears, their habits, their mindset, they become part of your inner landscape. Your mind is not only shaped by what you think, but by the mental weather you dwell in. There is an importance of wise association. Those within your inner circle share similar core values and beliefs. If the people we surround ourselves with have negative thoughts, then that could potentially affect our life if we're not aware. At the end of the day, we all have an opinion. Point blank, we cannot be all things to all people. We're not going to be popular with everyone, and we have to be okay with that. So don't let the opinion of others determine how you view yourself. You know yourself better than anyone else, and it's up to you to find your core truth and values by becoming more clear about your own mission and your own contribution to the world. And it can start as little as just being patient with people that are in your life. That is also giving. It doesn't necessarily have to be this huge thing. Start small. It's just about making a place better by you being there. And it can be as simple as picking up a piece of trash, you know? Even at the beach, if I see trash, I pick it up. That's just something that I've done consistently. When I made the intention to move towards a more positive and fulfilled life, I started to become more aware of negativity felt from others. They weren't necessarily directed towards me, but it was always easier to witness their habitual ways of negative thinking since I was practicing the opposite, and I was being very intentional. As we shift and evolve and commit to our own growth, it can feel lonely as we find ourselves temporarily isolated from former support systems, mostly because the people that we went to for support are no longer able to give us the intimacy that used to be helpful. Self-growth is the same as having so much love for self that you're detaching from others. No person is better, but it's just discovering that we no longer share the same values and beliefs. So we're unable to get that intimate place of safety and belonging. We begin drifting away from certain relationships because we're in different stages of personal growth, and that's okay. Self-love is knowing that the love you desire looks very different now. It's accepting that you're yearning for something different. You outgrow many of your friends along the way, and it's normal. As we change, as we evolve and move towards this different version of ourselves, we're bound to drop many friends along the way. Not because they're nasty and selfish, but simply because if they're unwilling to grow with you, and if they're not on the same journey, then eventually you'll find you're totally on a different vibration. There's something so beautiful about having long-term friends, though, that have witnessed multiple versions of you and loved you unconditionally through each version. So it's important to remember that during this time of growth, it can eventually lead to forming new and healthier relationships, and the feeling of loneliness will pass as you continue on your journey. Remember that every decision we make either takes us closer to or further away from ourselves. And the goal is to move closer towards ourselves. Which brings me to my next topic, and that is what you do frequently becomes your frequency. I recently heard from an acquaintance. He said sometimes life makes no sense, but that's ironically when it starts to make the most sense. It will be found that nature is constantly seeking to express harmony in all things. It's forever trying to bring out a harmonious adjustment for every discord, every wound, every difficulty. Therefore, when thought is harmonious, nature begins to create the material conditions, the possessions of which is necessary in order to make up a harmonious environment. Sometimes you have to play a long time to be able to play like yourself. Just don't quit, keep on going. So long as your choices are beautiful, so too will you be. I think it's called the mastery of self or something, but it says that when we understand that mind is the great creative power, What does not become possible? With desire as the great creative energy, can we not see why desire should be cultivated, controlled, and directed in our lives and destinies? All the great external forces act in solemn silence, but it is in our power to place ourselves in harmony with them, and thus express a life of comparative peace and happiness. We can receive only what we give, and we may give only to those who can receive. The work reveals itself as you go. Let go of the control or the desire to control every single outcome. Sometimes you know what you want, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna show up exactly how you want it. Things occur in the most bizarre way, and oftentimes they're a blessing in disguise. Sometimes life has to humble you in a big way so that you're ready for the challenges. Challenging times are only opportunities for growth. Trust the process and just become your best self in the moment. This is the real secret to life. To be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and the now, and instead of calling it work, realize that it's all play. And you're not supposed to know everything. You're not supposed to have everything completely laid out in front of you. Sometimes what you have is just that next step in front of you. And that's a beautiful thing. If you can see that and let go of the need to control it, but just keep on showing up as your best self. That concludes my video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I can only wish that you learned something. Sending y'all so much love. If you like this video, you might like the next one. I will see you next time. Mwah.